Hello, I'm Toycat, and welcome back to the video. Today we're talking about features that were removed during the development of Battle minigame for Minecraft console. Because a fun fact you might not know is the most recent update that did come out for Minecraft console is one of the very first updates where we actually had a real look into the update before it did come out, both through leaks of the codebase but also through gameplay of one of the beta versions they did in 2 events around the world. And this means that I have gameplay personally because I was at one of those events, but also that we actually know some of the features that were intended to be in battle mode but never quite made it to the full release. Today we're going through some of those and I'm quite looking forward to it. Hopefully all of you do too. If you do, like and let me know because it helps out the channel a lot and lets me do like these remove feature videos. I think it's always so interesting to see stuff that could have made it to the end but didn't quite make it. And you know, the best place to start this would probably be the name, because the really interesting thing about Battle is it didn't used to be called Battle. It actually had at least one other name during its development, because during the beta version, which was just a month before release, it was still called Arena. So one thing I will clarify is I believe the lead programmer did tell me this was just a placeholder name. They were working on the next name then, but still, you know, Arena was one of the names they had during development, and if they had another name before that, it was probably more like the Hunger Games. So why did they switch the name? If I had to guess, you know, it's because you can't really call it anything too similar to the Hunger Games, because one, the Hunger Games is like a series of movies, and you don't want to deal with that whole copyright mess. Then Arena, it kind of made sense for a while, because it's like you're in Arena, but one, the maps aren't really too Arena-like, and two, the Pocket Edition during the development of this decided to release an Arena map for Minecraft Story Mode. So I guess that's off the table, and then they're like, well, I guess you're battling each other, Minecraft Battle. If I had to guess, that's the explanation, and that's why Battle Minigame is called Battle Minigame and not Minecraft Arena. But during the development, it was called Minecraft Arena, and I guess I should clarify some of this stuff is for Minecraft Arena and not for Battle, which you can kind of think of as 2 separate game modes, because there were quite a lot of differences, including the fact that it wasn't originally going to be just free-for-all. There was going to be some form of alliance system and some form of team system. So if you're wondering where I found this from, this is from Redstone Labs. He dug into the PlayStation 3 files, or as a team a lot of people did, and we found a lot of really interesting stuff about Battle. At the time, it wasn't really too sure as to whether this is something they're planning or just something they're, you know, kind of goofing around with, but we now do know Battle did come out, which means this stuff was planned at some point. So yeah, first of all, as you can see right here, you can see that there was going to be multiple teams, only one team remaining. Teams will be dissolved in a number of seconds. There was an accept alliance button, so presumably in the game you could just form an alliance with someone, and that could have been a crazy dynamic, like try and form an alliance rather than doing the whole, like, you know, just block with your sword. Evidently, again, they have decided to go against that. But one of the really interesting things here, if you ask me, is the fact that originally minigames were planned to be a paid piece of content. So right now, you pay for map packs, and that's kind of how you pay for the minigames and the minigame team to make all the maps. But before, it looks like you were going to be able to play the minigame for some number of attempts, and then you'd have to pay after that. Whether you prefer that system or not, I think it's easy to say that it probably would have been the worst of the two, because there'd be less people playing, and this way, you know, if you don't want to pay maps, you can play minigames for free all you'd like. Whenever one comes out, it looks like you're going to be able to, but the fact that, you know, they can fund the development with these map packs, which have no doubt sold hundreds of thousands of copies, is something I think is much better personally. Again, maybe you like the idea of just like, oh, pay you know, $2 once and then never pay again, but I do think the idea that just, oh yeah, let's not have minigame trials, that sounds awful, is something way better. So yeah, originally there were going to be teams, and originally they were gonna, you know, at least they were playing around the idea of making you pay for the minigame rather than pay for the maps, which again, very, very bizarre stuff. But this is just the first of the stuff that we know about, you know, Battle before it came out, because this is just based on the code of the PlayStation 3 version, because as I said, there was a beta event, or a couple of beta events around the world, and somehow I got invited to one in London, and this means that I played Battle for about 2 hours before the game did come out, and I was very careful to look around to see stuff, to see, you know, how it changed between this and the final release, and as you can see right here, there were quite a few changes, especially even in just the options menu. There were going to be way more options you could set up your game with, because right now, Battle minigame is just, you know, casual, competitive, or, you know, 3 sets of menus, so, 3 sets of options, short, medium, and long, which means there's really 6 different varieties you can set up a game with. Before, when it was presumably based on, like, LAN games and just playing, you know, locally, there were so many more options, like hundreds of, or not if not thousands, of different combinations of games. And I believe the reason they probably slimmed these down is because when they decide to work on public games, so you can play with people online, you probably have to make sure that the rule sets are consistent. Because if you look at all these options, you know, like round length, if, you know, having a round length for 60 minutes isn't really too useful anyway, because it went all the way from 2 to 60. If you look at the fact, stuff like, you know, item respawn, if you mess with that, you can confuse a lot of people in the game. If you turn down the grace period to 5 or 0 seconds, then you can really mess people up that way. And there's just a lot of stuff like that that you need to have kind of constant. For instance, if you look at enable take everything, if you turn that off and people don't know about it, they'll go into the game, they'll press the left bumper and they'll just wait, and then they won't get anything and you'll take their stuff, and you can imagine how problematic that does get. So the system they did decide on is they made it so there's casual and then there's competitive, which is like a few of these rules kind of changed per one of them. But what I'd really like to see instead is to have casual and competitive if you're making a public game, but if you're playing invite only, it would be so cool to play around with this stuff, because if you look at all these options, you can make so many different like variations on the game. If you want to have a grace period of 30 seconds when playing your friends, maybe you should be able to do that. If you want to be able to have item respawn turned off, which was an option by the way, maybe you should be able to do that, and I wish there there were, more options to do that in a invite-only game. However, again, this was just how it was before. Now it's public, there is less options, and that does make sense, but it was cool that at one point you could turn all of these options off. You could play a so-called competitive game, but still have bats turned on, or you could do the opposite if you really want to, have a non-serious game, but have bats turned off, and that's just something that you could have done before, back when it was called Arena, and back when it wasn't a public game, that it was just one just you were playing with people like that. So, with that said, let's move on from this also. By the way, the last options here is spectator mode bat and bat noises, just in case you are curious. But yeah, as well as that, one thing we do know is there were 2 more maps in the beta. So I believe these maps are coming out at some point. They were very hesitant to show them to us. If you look here, they never ticked the options for Labyrinth or Atlantis, because this was someone using my controller. I was so tempted to click it myself, but I probably didn't want to get in trouble at the event that I just showed up to. So yeah, Labyrinth and Atlantis were 2 other maps that were at least made before this update came out. However, for some reason it seems they decided not to play them. They wouldn't ever less on them, and I decided not to annoy the guys at the event. So just something kind of interesting that you might not have known right there. There are 2 more maps that have been made so far, and presumably they're going to be spread out over future map packs. I assume map pack 2 and maybe even map pack 3, but still, Atlantis and Labyrinth are 2 maps we can expect to see in the future. So as well as all of that stuff, what else have they made to the game? What other changes have they made to the game then, you might question? So another big one is to do with the map sizes. So there's 2 variants of each map. I've done a whole video on this, how you get each one, but right now it seems like you get a small map if you play, I think it's 1 to 7 players, or there's no player in the 8th slot, and you get the large map if you have 8 players. Before this came out, it was going to be 4 players for the small map, 5 plus for the large map. I don't know why they decided to change it. I guess they decided 5 players wasn't good, and then they're like, why not have 6? Why not have 7 too? Or maybe it is a bug in the code, or maybe it is somewhere in between. They made a bug, and then they're like, well, this kind of works too. But right now, getting the small map version of the map is a lot more common than it was going to be in the beta. And one other change they have made, besides, tiny bounces and like new items and stuff, is they have decided to actually change the way stuff like Showdown comes up and the way all of these meshes are displayed on screen. They did get fancy meshes that say you have won, because before it was just the splash text, that same font they used to go like, oh yeah, look, you're, the weird things like, oh, eat Top Gear, get pig, or whatever that message is. They use that same text to go Showdown mode and to also display who won and whether you died and stuff. That has now been replaced by like a proper logo in the game. So yeah, as far as the actual game itself gone, they made a lot of polish to it. They decided on a full name that they could promote. They decided on, like actual graphics inside the game itself, and they made a few small changes like that. But the biggest ones to me are the fact that you used to have so many more options, that there were 2 maps that have been developed, and also the fact that you used to be able to set up alliances, or maybe it was just a separate game mode. It was going to be like, there's Minecraft Arena, then there's Team Arena. We can't say for sure because we don't have the full insight into the actual, game. We only got this brief little thing. But what we do know right now is that there were a lot of exciting features in development, and that tells us good things about the future. If this is what they decide on, this isn't just, what they threw together at the last minute. They considered a lot of stuff before arriving at the current battle, and that means that whatever we see in future might either see this, or maybe they'll have the same level of consideration where they only want to deliver the stuff that is the best, is the easiest, is all this sort of stuff. And to me, that's something that I find quite cool. So hopefully you did all enjoy this video going over features that were removed from the beta version of TU36 to the final one. If you did like this video, like it and let me know, because it helps out the channel a lot and lets me know you do like the removed feature videos. Again, I think it's cool that I can make one for Minecraft console here, and hopefully we can make more for future stuff. I doubt I'll ever be at one of these events again, because it seemed like it was just a random one-time thing, but if I am, you bet I'll be checking random stuff to see awesome stuff like the skin menu changes, stuff like that ahead of time. And besides that, I guess I will see you all in the next video. So like if you liked it, share if you liked it, subscribe if you're around here, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.